They shoved him into the rain like he was nothing. But the man they kicked out owned the entire hospital. And when the truth came out, the CEO didn't just lose her job. She lost everything. If you believe respect shouldn't require a name tag, comment Reeves below and share this with someone who still believes kindness can rebuild the world. Let's remind people, power means nothing without compassion. The rain had been falling for hours, turning the city sidewalks into slick sheets of glass. Keanu Reeves stepped out of a cab, hoodie soaked through, his boots splashing into a shallow puddle. He didn't flinch. In his arms was a small cardboard box wrapped in a child's crayon drawing. Stick figures, a sun, and the words, "For Sophie," from Keanu. He approached the glass doors of Westbridge Memorial Hospital, a place most entered with dread or hope. He entered quietly, unnoticed at first. Just another man in worn jeans and a drenched hoodie, face shadowed beneath the wet fabric. At the reception desk, a young woman with a headset looked up, eyes scanning him quickly. Her fingers hovered above her keyboard, not typing. "Can I help you?" she asked, tone neutral but guarded. "I'm here to visit a patient," Keanu said, gently setting the box down. "Sophie Linden, room 5C, pediatric cardiac unit." The woman's eyebrows lifted. "Are you family?" "No," he said. "Just a friend." "No clearance, no badge, sorry." "I've sent things before. Gifts, letters. She knows me." "That's not enough." She reached for the phone. Keanu stood silently, calm as ever. "I won't stay long. Just wanted to give this to her." Before she could reply, a door to the left hissed open, and in strode a woman in heels that clicked with authority. She wore a crisp white blazer, nails lacquered deep red. Her hair was silver blonde, cut to perfection. Eyes sharp and surgical. Eleanor Voss, Chief Executive Officer. A name that made interns stand straighter. She didn't wait for introductions. "Who is this?" she asked the receptionist without even looking at Keanu. "He says he's here for a pediatric patient. No clearance." Eleanor turned to him, scanning his soaked clothes, the box at his feet. "You look like someone who wandered in from the rain," she said coldly. Keanu offered a half smile. "I did, but I'm not lost." "Well, you're about to be." She gestured to the security guard behind her. "Escort him out." The guard moved fast, stepping between them, his hand brushing against Keanu's shoulder, firm but not rough. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. One of the orderlies nearby whispered, "Isn't that?" But Eleanor shot a look that silenced everyone. Keanu reached down, picked up the wet box, and nodded politely. No anger, no protest, just a tired breath. As he stepped back out into the downpour, a small face peeked from the window above. Sophie, pale and wrapped in wires, eyes lighting up just as the doors closed behind him. The box slipped from his hands, landing in the puddle beside the curb. He bent to retrieve it, mud-stained now, then glanced up at the towering building he helped fund, but never claimed. The same hospital that had just thrown him out like a beggar with no name. He didn't say a word, but something inside him shifted. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The boardroom on the 12th floor of Westbridge Memorial was a fortress of polished marble and glass. At the head of the obsidian table sat Eleanor Voss, eyes fixed on the wall-mounted screen glowing with performance metrics. Revenue up 8.2%, operating costs down 11%. Her mouth curled. Not quite a smile, just satisfaction. "Good work," she said to no one in particular. VIP conversions in the East Wing are up. Let's expand the concierge packages. Drop the subsidized meal program for pediatrics. It's a sunk cost. A junior executive hesitated. But that program feeds families who can't. Eleanor turned her gaze on him. Icy, unblinking, surgical. We're not running a soup kitchen. We are a hospital, not a handout mill. Silence followed. No one argued again. Then her assistant, Tasha, slipped into the room. She moved quickly, but nervously. Whispers always followed Eleanor's heels, even among those closest to her. "There's something you should see," Tasha said, holding out a tablet. Eleanor took it, swiped once, then froze. On the screen, CCTV footage from the lobby. The grainy image showed a drenched man being pushed out the front doors, a soggy cardboard box tumbling to the sidewalk. The title read, "Homeless man tries to sneak into pediatric unit. Gets kicked out hard." The clip was uploaded by one of the overnight guards, captioned with emojis and mocking hashtags. It had already been reposted dozens of times across internal hospital chats. The comments were cruel, anonymous. "Didn't know John Wick lived in a dumpster now." "Keanu cosplayer? Bro got wrecked by front desk Karen." "When your career dies and you try to break into pediatrics." Eleanor smirked. "Perfect." "You recognize him?" Tasha asked. "No. And even if I did, the policy is clear. No ID, no clearance, no entry." Tasha hesitated. "There's talk it might actually be Keanu Reeves." Eleanor let out a clipped laugh. "Keanu Reeves doesn't wander into hospitals without security, in a hoodie, unshaven, carrying a box of crayons. That man looked like a washed-up substitute teacher. But if he's who you say he is, he can schedule a press tour like everyone else." Then, as if on cue, another notification popped up. This time it was from Emma Tran, a nurse in the pediatric cardiac unit. She had quietly shared a photograph to the internal staff board, one taken by Sophie Linden, the young patient in room 5C. The picture showed her with a hand-drawn thank you card addressed to Uncle Keanu, with a sketch of the same hoodie, the same soft eyes. Beneath it was scrawled in marker, "Thank you for saving my heart. I'll be brave like you." Eleanor's smile faded, but only for a moment. She tapped the screen, closed the photo, and issued a curt command. "Have security remove that nurse's access to internal communications, and get PR to scrub that video before it leaks out of staff channels." Tasha didn't move. "What if it's really him?" Eleanor stood, straightened her blazer. "Then I just humiliated the most irrelevant man in Hollywood. Either way, no loss." Meanwhile, down in the quiet dark of the parking garage, Emma sat in her car gripping the steering wheel, jaw clenched. She replayed the footage again, frame by frame, until she couldn't deny it. It was him. The man Sophie had written about for 2 years. The donor who never gave a name. The one who sent letters with no return address. The one who kept the pediatric wing funded when their old defibrillators failed and the insurance companies backed out. He was real, and they'd just thrown him into the rain. Emma's phone buzzed. Her access to the staff board had been revoked. She stared at the message, then at Sophie's crayon card she kept folded in her glove box. "Be brave." Her thumb hovered, then tapped the record on a new video. Her voice trembled, but her eyes didn't blink. "You all saw the footage. You think he's just some drifter. But that man is why Sophie is still breathing. If this hospital forgets kindness, then it's lost more than funding. It's lost its heart." She hit send to a private forum of whistleblower nurses. The ripple had begun. And the storm wasn't over. Not yet. In room 5C, the heart monitor beeped in steady rhythm, slow but alive. Sophie Linden lay curled beneath a faded pink blanket. Tubes ran from her arm, and a small oxygen cannula rested under her nose. Her body was still fragile, recovering from a recent valve replacement surgery. But her eyes were wide with quiet hope, always searching the doorway. A crayon drawing sat on her bedside table. It showed a tall man in a hoodie, holding a toy bear, with a crooked smile and kind eyes. She had drawn him dozens of times, always from memory. She looked at it now. "Uncle Keanu's coming back," she whispered to herself. Emma, the nurse who had been assigned to her case for over a year, walked in carrying a tray of crushed ice and a cup of juice. Her steps were gentle, but her mind wasn't at peace. The image of Keanu being shoved into the rain kept flashing in her head. "You know," Sophie said suddenly, "he came yesterday." Emma froze. "Who came?" "My uncle. I saw him, down by the sidewalk. He had my box." "You saw him?" Sophie nodded excitedly, her small hands waving. "He was wearing the same hoodie, the gray one I told you about, but he dropped the box, and they pushed him away." Emma sat down slowly, fighting the lump forming in her throat. "Sweetheart, I don't think he was allowed to come in." "But why?" Sophie's voice cracked. "He always sends gifts. He saved me." Emma reached over and took the girl's hand. "Because some people here don't know who he really is." Sophie looked away, her expression dimming. Emma gently picked up the drawing. "What if I told you? I saw him too." Sophie blinked. "You did?" "I did. And I think he needs us to remind them who he is." She stood and walked to her locker down the hall. Inside was a box of old records and letters Sophie's uncle had sent over the years. Gifts signed only as K or a friend. Emma had kept every envelope. No logos, no headlines, just handwritten notes. And then there was the one letter, the only time he'd written in full sentences. "I'm not important, but if she fights, I'll fight too. Let her know. She's stronger than most people I've ever met." The handwriting matched the form Keanu had signed in the visitor log 3 years ago, the one time he came to deliver a custom teddy bear personally. Back when the board thought he was just passing by. Emma now knew the truth. She gathered the letters and Sophie's drawings, carefully tucking them into a folder. If Eleanor and the others wouldn't see it, she'd make sure the world did. Before she left the room, Sophie whispered, "Tell him I waited. Even in the rain, I waited." Emma looked back, hand on the light switch. So did he. The boardroom buzzed with its usual corporate rhythm, screens glowing, water glasses half full, people nodding with practiced indifference. Eleanor Voss sat at the head of the table, crossing her legs as she skimmed the quarterly summaries projected on the wall. "Let's move to cost reallocation for Q3, she said coolly, tapping her stylus. "We cut 14% from pediatric services. I'd like to double it." A few murmurs of discomfort. One board member cleared his throat. "That's significant, Eleanor. PR fallout." She didn't even look up. "We don't need sentiment. We need solvency." That's when the glass doors opened. At first, no one turned. Meetings were often interrupted by interns, aides, consultants. But when the footsteps stopped at the end of the table, a stillness fell. Keanu Reeves stood there in a black, tailored suit, hair slicked back from the rain. No hoodie, no box, just him and 3 lawyers flanking his sides, one of them carrying a leather briefcase. Eleanor's face drained of color just for a second. Then the composure snapped back. "This is a closed session," she said sharply. "You need to leave." Keanu didn't move. He laid a single folder on the table. "I'm not here as a visitor." His voice was quiet, cold. "I'm here as a shareholder." Gasps. One board member leaned forward, already opening the folder. Inside, notarized transfer documents, dated back 6 years. Eleanor stood abruptly. "This is impossible." One of the lawyers calmly slid forward the paperwork. "Through the Project Mercy Trust, Mr. Reeves has maintained controlling interest in Westbridge Memorial since 2019. Every quarterly deficit, every private donor bailout, he was the one behind them." Keanu kept his eyes on Eleanor. "And I stayed silent, because it wasn't about me." He took a step closer. "Until you threw me out, in front of a dying girl." The room was silent. "You humiliated the man funding your oxygen tanks. You cut treatment for the very children I swore to protect. You turned a hospital into a luxury brand and pushed out compassion like it was dirt." Eleanor's hands trembled, but her voice stayed clipped. "This is slander. Keanu raised a hand. The lawyer tapped a screen. A projection lit up the wall. Emails, invoices, hidden partnerships with private insurance brokers, sales of patient data. Signatures. Eleanor Voss. Whispers broke out around the table. "That's a HIPAA violation. She sold pre-op records to bidding agencies. This is criminal." Keanu stepped back. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to clean the house." The side doors opened. 2 federal officers entered quietly, badges already visible. Eleanor backed away. "You can't do this. You're just an actor." Keanu looked down at her. Calm. Final. "No. I'm the man who paid for the heartbeat you tried to silence." As she was led away, the monitors above flickered from financial graphs to a single black screen with white text. Project Mercy. Rebuilding healthcare with humanity. And this was only the beginning. The elevator doors hadn't even closed behind Eleanor before the silence in the boardroom broke like glass. Phones buzzed. Emails pinged. 2 board members were already on their devices, reading headlines faster than they could comprehend them. CEO of Westbridge accused of selling patient data. Footage leaks of Keanu Reeves being ejected from hospital he secretly owned. Project Mercy trending worldwide. Eleanor Voss was being taken down, in real time. Across the hospital, staff gathered in clusters near TVs and computers. Nurses stopped mid-shift, some gasping, some whispering, "He owns this place?" While staring at the footage looping on internal screens. Keanu standing silently as security pushed him into the rain, the box falling into the gutter. The little girl's crayon note soaked through. And now he stood at the heart of the hospital, not as a stranger, but as its anchor. In the emergency lobby, Keanu walked through the corridors unbothered. No one stopped him. Not anymore. He passed Emma, who stood beside the receptionist who had first denied him access. The young woman flushed, head bowed, eyes glassy with guilt. Keanu paused. She looked up, bracing herself. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He offered a soft nod. "You were just following orders." Then he looked at Emma. "Is she awake?" Emma smiled. "She's been waiting for you." Back in the boardroom, Eleanor's voice rang out as 2 federal agents guided her toward the elevator. "You're destroying years of optimization?" she snarled, fighting to maintain composure. "You'll bankrupt this hospital within months!" Keanu turned, his voice sharper now. "You almost bankrupted its soul." She scoffed. "What do you know about saving lives? You're a movie star." Keanu's eyes narrowed. "I know that when no one else would cover Sophie's surgery, I did. And not for a photo op. I didn't ask for a plaque. I didn't even ask for a thank you. But I will ask you this." He stepped closer, the room watching breathlessly. "How many lives did you steal to make your numbers look good?" Eleanor hesitated for the first time, just for a second. Then she lunged. Her hand shot out. She slapped Emma hard across the face. A gasp erupted from the crowd. Eleanor's second hand reached for a glass paperweight, but one of the officers caught her wrist mid-swing and twisted it behind her back. "You're under arrest," the agent said coldly. "You have the right to remain silent." But Eleanor didn't stay silent. She screamed all the way down the corridor. In room 5C, Sophie stirred. The door creaked open. Keanu stepped in slowly, holding the cleaned box in both hands. Sophie sat up with effort, her eyes wide and shining. "You came back," she whispered. Keanu smiled, placing the box beside her. "Took me a while. Someone locked the doors." She laughed. Barely a sound, but enough to fill the room. Outside her window, a new banner was being raised on the hospital wall. One word stretched across it: mercy. The hallway outside room 5C was different now. No more security guards standing like statues, no hushed whispers trailing behind him, just open space and silence. Keanu paused at the door. His reflection wavered in the narrow glass window, no longer soaked in rain, but still carrying the weight of what had happened. He adjusted the box in his hands. It was the same one Sophie had drawn on. The paper dried, corners curled, colors slightly faded, but intact. Like her. He knocked once, then pushed the door open. Sophie was sitting up in bed, eyes locked on the door before it even moved. Her tiny fingers clutched a heart-shaped pillow against her chest. Her breath caught. He stepped inside, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sophie's whisper cracked the quiet like sunlight through curtains. "You came back." Keanu smiled, the kind of smile that only ever reached his eyes. "I had to," he said softly. "I made a promise, remember?" She nodded, tears already forming. "Even when they yelled at you?" "I've been yelled at before." She giggled through her tears. "But you got kicked out." Keanu laughed gently, stepping closer. "And now I kicked someone out." He placed the box on her lap. Inside, perfectly tucked in, was the plush bear he meant to deliver days ago, now wearing a tiny stitched heart on its chest. Sophie hugged it like it was made of glass. "He's real." "So are you," Keanu whispered. Emma stood silently at the door, wiping her eyes. Keanu turned and gave her a grateful nod. She nodded back, mouthing, "Thank you." Sophie looked up at him, more serious now. "Were you really the one who gave money to the hospital?" "I was one of them," he said carefully. "But I didn't want anyone to know." "Why?" "Because it was never about me. It was about you. And every other kid in here." She leaned forward as best she could, her fingers brushing his. "But they made it about you anyway." He paused, then said, "Sometimes people need to remember what kindness looks like. before they believe in it again. A quiet knock came from the window. Emma opened the curtains. Outside, dozens of patients, nurses, even doctors were gathered in the garden courtyard below. They waved. A few held hand-painted signs. "Thank you, Keanu. We remember. We believe." Sophie beamed. "Are they going to be okay now?" Keanu looked at her. "They will be, because you didn't give up." She squeezed his hand with surprising strength. "Neither did you." As he stood to leave, she called after him one more time. "Promise me something." He turned. "When I'm better, we help the next kid, okay?" Keanu's throat tightened. "You have my word." That night, a press release went live worldwide. Project Mercy announces Global Pediatric Fund in Sophie Linden's name. A small girl's voice, a quiet man's resolve, now echoed around the world. And it all began in room 5C. 3 weeks later, the hospital garden bloomed with more than flowers. Children in wheelchairs laughed under paper lanterns. Nurses danced between IV poles. Parents held hands without trembling. The banner fluttering above them read, "Project Mercy Launch Day, in honor of every invisible hero." Keanu stood off to the side in a gray shirt and jeans, sunglasses tucked into his collar. No stage, no speech, just watching. Sophie sat beside him, wrapped in a soft pink shawl. Her cheeks were fuller now, her laugh louder. Her bare, hearty, never left her side. "You still don't want your name on the wing?" she asked. Keanu shook his head. "This isn't about names. It's about what happens when we see people, before we judge them." She looked up at him. "Even when they're in wet hoodies?" He smiled. "Especially then." Nearby, a reporter called out, "Mr. Reeves, just one quote, please." Keanu turned, thought for a moment, then said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Kindness doesn't need clearance, and dignity doesn't wear a badge. Don't wait until someone's famous, powerful, or useful to treat them with basic respect. Everyone is fighting battles you don't see. What if the person you just ignored was the very one who came to save you?" If this story moved you, share it. Tag someone who deserves to be seen. And tell us in the comments, what's one act of kindness that changed your life? Because maybe the world changes not through speeches or money, but through one moment of mercy at a time.